First of all, I'd like to say thank you very much for inviting me here. My name's Brian West. I am Chair of the European AIDS Treatment Group. I'm on the Steering Committee of AIDS Action Europe, and I'm now also the co-chair of HIV in Europe. I'm also from Scotland, so I think this weather is my fault. This is what Scottish weather looks like. Up until next April, this is our weather, apart from when it snows. So I apologise for the rain. Very, very sorry. I wanted to say just a little bit about myself first, because as well as being chair of the European AIDS Treatment Group, I'm also a gay man who's 55 years old, who's been living with HIV for 30 years now. And I noticed the sign on the presentations this morning, 30 years. For me, it has been a very, very personal history. And I think one of the most important things about my personal history is that I've had two things that have been to my benefit throughout those 30 years. First of all, I knew my HIV status very, very early on. I found out I was HIV positive in 1985. And secondly, there was not a great deal of discussion about the follow-through to care, because the only place that you could get tested in those days was, in my place, the sexual health clinic. So over the years, I've had access to all the best treatments, even when the best treatment wasn't antiretroviral therapy, when it was some of the most horrible kind of treatments. I'm sure Luis would remember them, the ganciclovir implants for CMV in my eyes, all those kind of things. I had access to the best care, and I had access to that because I had tested HIV positive at a very early age. Like Luis, I'm also at the stage now where some of the drugs I took in the early years are having their effect, although I suspect that my face is looking the way that it is because I'm getting old. And that is a wonderful thing now. That's a wonderful thing that there's a generation like me who is managing to grow old gracefully or something like that anyway. So either way, I got involved in HIV Testing Week through AIDS Action Europe, and the aim and objective of European HIV Testing Week is to increase the proportion of people who are aware of their HIV status and to reduce late HIV diagnosis, something which we've just heard is very common throughout Europe. The objective, creating and launching a testing week to raise further awareness amongst the community, healthcare professionals and policymakers, three key groups there, about the importance of increasing HIV testing for people most at risk across Europe. The overall key message is HIV in Europe is calling for the European community, and wider than just the European community, if we're honest, to unite for 1 week to increase awareness of the benefits of HIV testing so that more people are aware of their HIV status and can access treatment. Target groups, the key populations at higher risk of HIV, healthcare professionals, policymakers and organisations. We are very clear at the very beginning that this is not a one-size-fits-all kind of model. There are different challenges and strategies and opportunities in each country. All countries in the WHO European region are invited to participate. HIV in Europe created the overall framework. It's the big kind of database of the evidence for scaling up HIV. There are template materials and guidance. And there's a platform for signing up to the testing week and sharing experiences. I was quite astounded about the reaction to this, to be perfectly honest. I think we, in the original meeting, hoped maybe we'd get 150 people or so to sign up. I think it's about 400. I can't remember how many. But so many people have signed up to HIV Testing Week. And I really hope that produces what we want, really a big, big sea change in people's attitude to HIV testing and a knowledge that we need to be doing far, far better in Europe. By using the HIV in European network, individual countries and organisations are encouraged to implement national actions relating to the overall goal of the testing week. The strapline is, of course, talk HIV, test HIV, ask for a test, offer a test, create a dialogue between the stakeholders. There's a Testing Week website. It was launched on the 18th of September and was very quickly bombarded with people trying to sign on, which was wonderful. There are materials available on the website, the Testing Week logo, banner adverts, the evidence, we've already mentioned that. inspiration to activities, fact sheets, they've been very, very popular, the toolkits to support Testing Week, and a template launch press release. The languages are English, Russian, Spanish, and Portuguese. We, of course, would not forget Portuguese. Specific materials translated into other languages on a first-come, first-served basis. There's an upload section on the website, and there's lots of pan-European organisations involved in there, most of the ones you'll already know anyway. I won't go through them all. Signed up organisations, of course, include GAT from Portugal and lots of other well-known organisations too. 426 organisations signed up so far. The types of organisations, it was really very interesting to see so many civil society organisations. I, at one point, was chasing up everybody in Scotland, all of the NGOs to sign up. And then I suddenly realised I had better stop because I had signed them all up anyway. There were no more left to sign up. But civil society has got involved big style, and it's very, very interesting to see that. Healthcare professionals, it was good to see the number of healthcare professionals and hospitals signing up. And government and policy, that was very interesting too. I'm not exactly sure who the other ones are there, but we'll try and break that down later on when we're doing an analysis. The target groups, the general population, MSM, certainly quite a lot of the health prevention networks and the MSM prevention networks in certainly the United Kingdom. Anyone who is anybody has signed up for that there. Sex workers, IDU, migrants, mobile populations, a lot of the patient groups have signed up. And I think that's a very important point as well, because I do remember a time when some patient groups were a bit suspicious about testing strategies. I'm old enough to remember discussions about, oh, what's the point in testing? We don't have effective remedies. And then, of course, it all changed in the late 90s when we did have effective remedies. And the mood changed. We started to say, actually, you really want to test and find out as soon as possible. Because although it's never good to find out that you're HIV positive, although it's never cheerful news, it's far better to find out in your local NGO, in your clinic, than find out on a stretcher in an accident and emergency department or in an intensive care unit. So you've got to find out sometimes, so the sooner the better. So I was really pleased to see the patient groups signing up the way that they have. The planned activities, awareness-raising activities, HIV testing activities. I see there's a tent outside here. That's very good. Advocacy initiatives, engaging HIV ambassadors, and training and capacity building. Policyholder meetings. We've got a big policyholder meeting in Scotland coming about specifically because of this. Signed up organisations in Portugal. I won't go reading through all of these organisations, which is just as well. You don't want to hear my attempt at the Portuguese language. These are all the organisations we have in Portugal, and that's a wonderful, wonderful effort from Portugal, I think. Signed up even more. We've got GAT there again. We've got a Facebook page, so please, 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 if you're on Facebook, and I suspect a lot of people here are, go on and sign on for that. Examples of activities planned. Speed dating theme parties and outreach testing in Croatia. Youth awareness campaigns in Armenia. Training of GPs on newly developed approach to offer HIV testing for African immigrants in Belgium. Concert in Rome, Italy. Press conference in Austria and Poland. Promoting linkage to HIV treatment in Estonia. TV spots and rapid tests in Greece. Outreach to MSM and sauna and disco clubs in Bulgaria. Rapid testing in Ukraine for HIV, syphilis, Hep B and C, mass testing for youth in Azerbaijan, and advocacy for better testing coverage of key populations in Kyrgyzstan. Information sessions in Tajikistan, involving celebrities in Latvia, political meetings, bus adverts, testing outreach in UK. You know what I find really funny about this? I didn't write this slide. They've just used the word UK, the United Kingdom. What they actually meant was England, but we won't go there. condom distribution and mobile testing in Republic of Macedonia. And in Scotland, we're having a seminar on HIV self-testing in Scotland. That was another interesting one as well, because just 3 years ago in Scotland, we did a little test in one of the organisations, HIV Scotland. We were trying to work out how long does it take you to actually find out if you're HIV positive. I phoned up to see if I could get an appointment with a local clinic. It was going to be 4 days later. There wasn't a drop-in centre open over the weekend, so I couldn't go there. So I went on the internet, ordered a self-testing kit, and it arrived. No shock to me, the result. I'd known for years anyway. But it obviously arrived far quicker than any other possible route. And I was horrified when I saw the self-testing kit. I wasn't horrified at the result, but there were instructions on it. And the instructions said, as a result of this test, you may want to visit a doctor. And I thought, may want to visit a doctor. And it was at that point that we realised if people are accessing these kits, we need to think about legalising them and making sure that we're talking to the manufacturers so that we give far better advice on how to use them, and very importantly, make sure that we're trying to create a linkage through to care as well. So we've got a big session on that in Scotland. There's exhibitions and public workshops in Serbia. There's HIV testing to employees and all new patients in the ID outpatient unit in a hospital in Denmark, social media and outreach in Spain, newspaper articles in the Netherlands, and the training of non-infectious diseases specialists on indicator diseases in Turkey. And there's a film festival and policy meetings in Slovenia. And the other thing that I notice everybody seems to be going to see, certainly in Scotland and in England, I even saw in Northern Ireland, is the filming of the film How to Survive a Plague. I see everybody's going to see that as well. This is a kind of example of some of the materials and some of the adverts that have been going out as a result of this. So we're really, really pleased with the outcome of this. From a personal perspective, I think what I really hope is that all of this activity and all of this interest does actually transfer into more people finding out their HIV status. I come from Scotland, and it really is only in the mid-90s, we had a very low knowledge rate as far as HIV, far lower than England at the time, about 50%. And it took us many years of innovative approaches to testing not just in clinics, but in venues near to gay bars, in venues near to saunas, and just going out and actually testing, perhaps sometimes in church halls, and near where the black African immigrant population were. It took us a lot of innovative practices to get up to the 73 to 75% that we now are at. And I have to say, from my perspective, 73 to 75% is still not good enough. We need to be doing more. We need to be supporting community groups to actually test more. However, when you actually look at what's happening in Eastern Europe, that slide that Jens just showed about the appalling number of people in Eastern Europe who know their HIV status, and that number who are actually getting treated at the end of that. It was about 10%, wasn't it? 10%. I mean, that is appalling, and we should be ashamed as Europeans to actually be watching that. Because I do remember an AIDS conference in Durban where we were campaigning vociferously to get antiretroviral drugs into Africa, quite correctly. But there are parts of Europe that make Africa look wonderful nowadays. So I really hope that this HIV testing week can address that. We can do two things: get more people testing for HIV, and also get more people on the antiretroviral drugs that will make them feel good. Thank you.